Hi, welcome to episode 3 of You Can Learn Something from Anybody. My name is Scott Bloyer, I'm your host, and we are coming from A-Town Studios high up on the third floor of Elevation Christian Church. We know that leaders are learners, and if we stop learning, we stop leading. And that means we can learn something from anybody. We just need to be able to ask questions, listen, and talk less. Today, my guest is Justin Adams. I reached out to Justin immediately following the death of George Floyd and in the midst of protests and riots around the nation. Justin, along with another friend of mine, were able to give me more insight into what is going on. I want you to know a little bit more about Justin. Justin Adams is a sports reporter for CBS Channel 4 here in the Denver metro area. Justin is a Colorado native, and he played high school football at Montbello High and then college football with CU Bluffs, where he played tight end. Along with his work on Channel 4, Justin is the voice of the Regis Rangers, and he makes many appearances on radio around town. He is also a husband, a father, and a man of faith. So today, I hope you enjoy my conversation with my friend, Justin Adams. So my name is Scott Bloyer. I'm so fortunate to have with me Justin Adams, family friend. Started several years ago working with my knucklehead brother on the turf with Rogan and... Yep. Oh, what's the other guy's name?
Bill Rogan, Andy Cornell, the rest of the cast of characters on that show.
So for those of the people that don't know you, just kind of share who you are, where you came from, all that,
Yeah, man. My bio is really extensive, which kind of makes me sound like I'm really important, but I'm not that important, but whatever. Anyway, so work at Channel 4, CBS 4, sports reporter and anchor as well, so doing some great work over there. Enjoy the guys that are at Channel 4, man. Michael Spencer, Romy Bean, and the rest of the crew that we have do a fantastic job covering sports, so having a chance to be over there with those guys, as well as, do some, jump on different radio stations, so whether it's Mile High Sports Radio, whether it's the Fan. Also worked at News Radio KOA for 5 years, doing work there. Host a pregame and postgame show for the Colorado Buffalo football games for 2 years, 2 seasons over there. And long and short of it, just from the beginning, I'm Montbello High School graduate. I'm a Denver native. I love Denver. This is my home.
Oh, wait a minute. Who's your coach at Montbello?
Louis Wright.
Louis.
But I also did have Dave Gonzalez.
Yes,
Dave Gonzalez was there for 3 years, man. He's a meathead, man. I love him.
Yeah.
Meathead, though. But that brother can work out like nobody else's business, man. He's so good, man.
See, so our connection then, Dave was a student teacher when I was at Rangeview for my junior and senior year.
Wow.
And so then he went on to Montbello, but then came back to Rangeview and coached my son. So, we've got this, and I got to coach with him when Tyler was there. So
nice.
It was very fun.
Man, he's fiery guy. Yeah. He's just...
See, and I love Louis.
Oh, yeah.
Love Louis.
Here's the thing about Louis Wright that we had at Montbello. Because at the time, I remember growing up that we were just like, why is a guy who played so well with the Broncos, because why is he coaching like defense or DBs? Why is he like coaching offense? He was the head coach at Montbello. But then once he left, and you kind of see how the community, with Louis Wright, but not Louis Wright, but with Oliver Lucas, who took the job after him. I mean, we were a powerhouse. We had, Texas came down, Michigan came down. We had so many different schools that would come down to recruit teams. But Louis Wright really helped solidify a lot of things that was going on in the community in Montbello. But he ran like 5 plays. Yeah. And he would tell you too, man. We ran 5 plays, man.
Bread and butter.
Counter pass, man. Like, counter pass, and like 99. Everybody go on a fly route, man. Those were the plays that we ran over there. So it was great, man, to be able to have those times to grow up there. And then I walked on to the University of Colorado. Played 3 years at CU, and so it was love. I loved being there, and then walked out of CU with a double degree in broadcast production and ethnic studies, and so now I'm just at Channel 4 and just want to continue to move on up the ranks, and so continue to do great work.
That's awesome. Yeah, what I used, just going back to Louis, I remember one day we're at a track meet. He's coaching track, and all these kids are like, "Oh, Coach Louis," and I'm like, "Do you know who he is?" And none of them had a clue.
Right.
I was like, so I pull it up on my phone. I'm like, this is his stats. This is Pro Bowl. This is, and they're all kind of looking at me. I'm like, that's the shutdown corner before there was a shutdown corner.
He's Ring of Famer with the Broncos, and he should be a Hall of Famer.
I agree.
I mean, it's what he did with the Broncos. Because you think about it, it wasn't just all John Elway. Like,
No.
we understand that you have to have a quarterback to make things go if
Yeah.
you're going to be a good team. But the talent that he had around him, though,
Yes.
Louis Reich, Hall Mecklenburg, later on in his career, Dennis Smith, rather, Steve Atwater, who just got into the Hall of Fame, right?
I was about to go nuts if he didn't go.
One of the greatest guys, probably. I mean, I had a chance to sit down with him, did some radio shows with him. Steve Atwater, one of the nicest guys in the world, but I would not catch a pass over the middle with him around there.
No.
Like, I'm
Him and Ronnie Lott.
No,
That's all I keep thinking.
dude.
Him and Ronnie Lott. He will separate your head from your shoulders and then smile about it.
and pick you up. Here you go, man. Hey, I just broke your arm. Here you go. Come on up here. Let me help you out. But when you think about those teams that John Elway had defensively, like, he had some good talent.
Yeah.
It's just, 3 times prior didn't work out for him, especially that one in '89. I know you remember that when they played against San Francisco and were demolished by probably one of the, if not the best teams that have ever walked on the face of the earth in '89. It was ridiculous.
That was painful. Painful to watch.
It was.
Because I remember it was Dennis Smith and maybe Atwater.
Yep,
And they were
they
saying,
both were
we're gonna get Jerry Rice, we're going to do this. And they just picked them apart.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, you shouldn't have ticked off Jerry because he was ready to come with it. And it's just like, but, you live and learn. You move.
Yeah. You got your rings too at the
Exactly.
end. TD helped out a whole lot with that. Steve got 2 as well. But it's just funny watching those teams back in the past because they were truly surgical, man. The 49, like, those were just surgical teams, man.
Only Bronco that I feel bad for, Champ Bailey.
You know what? That makes 2 of us.
Didn't get the ring.
And,
In the Hall of Fame,
in the Hall of Fame.
phenomenal defensive back,
Yes.
incredible leader.
Yes.
And didn't get the ring. Year later,
Yeah.
they get the ring.
I know.
I'm like,
You know what? So Champ Bailey, this is the thing with his career. He had 2 great chances to win the ring.
right.
It was 2005 when the Broncos lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Championship that
right.
game, which was the same day, by the way, where Kobe Bryant scored 81 points against the Toronto Raptors. But the play that did it, and Bronco fans will look at it online, and this will hit you to the gut. It was third and 1 or something like that, and Ben Roethlisberger throws a floater to the right to Hines Ward. And Champ Bailey is literally an inch away from picking off the pass and going to the house. Tips the ball up in the air. Hines Ward comes down with it. John Lynch hits him, but it's a first down for Pittsburgh, and then game over. Game never went right from there. But if Champ Bailey picks that pass off, the Broncos are in the Super Bowl against Seattle. Yeah, I know. And then the other time, again, game of inches, 2012, where the Broncos are like on an 11-game winning streak, number 1 seed, and they lose to Baltimore because Raheem Moore and I won't put it on Tony Carter, but Raheem Moore didn't get the right angle to knock down the ball.
Just knock it down.
Just knock it
That's
down.
all you got to do.
Knock it
away.
down. And that was it. So by the time Champ did get there in 2013, I mean, he was dealing with, foot issues.
Oh, yeah.
Had Liz Frank injury. I mean, he was dealing with so much and just wasn't the same. Just didn't have the same pop, and that was the last game he played in the NFL.
Yeah. No, I always think of that. Every time they talk about Super Bowl wins and the Broncos, I'm like, dang it, Champ was
that close.
This close.
But it just shows like how the NFL, it's literally a game of inches. It
Exactly.
so is, man.
So the reason that we're sitting here is obviously there were things going on in our world.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I've always felt like instead of going straight to Facebook to stand, I always say I'm not going to grandstand. My goal is to find my friends and find out how they're doing and find out. And so I sent you a tweet.
Yeah.
The whole protesting and rioting and the loss of George Floyd. My first intention was find out how my friends are doing and ask how I can serve.
Yeah.
Because I have a good friend by the name of Hassan Latif. I sent him a text. I sent you a text. I sent a couple other guys a text. I Zoomed one of my friends, Larry, who's a pastor here in town, and just said, how are you? How is your family? And that's when this came out of the conversation. Well, let's sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Just for you, I mean, your old son.
Yes, sir.
You've been married what, 5 years?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years going on. 3 years going on 50.
There you go.
At least.
I
At
understand.
least.
I understand. We're 28, and I'm like, why is she staying?
Right.
So no, I'm just kidding. When you were able to sit down and contemplate after George Floyd? What was your first emotion? What was your first thought?
Yeah, it's interesting with George Floyd and, seeing another black man killed and the knee to the neck. Police officer with hands in his pockets while somebody's literally
Right.
screaming for
I can't
his
breathe.
life. I can't breathe. And, later on was, crying for his mom who
Yeah.
already passed.
Right.
I'll be honest. I didn't see the full video because I've seen so many before
Right.
that I was like, I can't watch another one.
Exactly.
And so, going to work, anchoring that day, you kind of try to mask it as best as you can. Did my job, do what I can, but I got home and I didn't realize like how much it affected me immediately.
Right.
And so, about for a good couple of days, it really, had me in a funk,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. And so it's not something I wish I would say, oh, this is the first time I've seen something like
Right.
that before. It's something that I've known since being young, being a kid, and it's extremely unfortunate. Well, unfortunate is not even. It's one of the words I could use for it. It took me a while to really pop out of it.
Yeah.
It's and in many respects I'm still grappling with the whole situation, and so. There's a lot of different things I'm seeing right now. I had to tell myself, even as a journalist, hey, get your behind off of social media.
Yeah.
You don't need to be on social media every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Try to figure out what's going on. And you don't have to voice your opinion on absolutely everything. You know,
Right.
sometimes it's better for you to just sit back, man, and just relax. Talk to
Yeah.
other people about how you're feeling, different things
Yeah.
like that. But most importantly, man, you got to get in the Word.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta fill yourself in the Word, because if you don't, you're gonna find yourself jumping on different things that maybe sounds good,
Right.
It sounds like making progress, but it doesn't align with what the Lord is doing. So very
Yeah.
important for that.
And I think that's one of the things when you said sit there, I have a friend who always jokes we should be called human doings, not human beings, because we're
Right.
really not good at being at anything.
Right,
We're always trying to do something. And I think for me, that's one of the things I saw a lot of white pastors, white leaders go,
Mm-hmm.
well, I want to say something, but I'm not sure how to.
Right.
But then you have people go, well, you didn't say anything soon enough. And it's like, well, in my position where I'm at and growing up and all that, it's like, well, you're going to piss off someone. So
100%.
just make sure you're honoring God with what you say and doing the timing.
Right.
But I think that was one, like when you said, because you were in the media, you had to go, well, do I have to say something? I think a lot of people were in that place.
Right.
And I think now we're seeing more, and it's especially some of our godly leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing them go, okay, this is the reason why I waited, and this is what I want to say so that it's complete. We talk about all the time that it should start with wisdom and end
100%.
with grace.
100%.
Because if you don't, then you're just going to look like an idiot. But
Yeah. Well,
You
and that happens a lot because, people aren't quick to listen,
no,
but they speak fast.
Oh, yeah.
And it's easier to speak with your thumbs and through emotion and rather than
let's say
being
it's easy to
slow
do that
Yeah.
instead of sitting like this.
100%. Yeah.
Right? Because now I don't have to feel like I have to own what I just said.
Right,
I could throw
right.
something out in the Twitter sphere or on Facebook
And
or
move on.
Insta chat, whatever,
Yeah.
and walk away because no one can hurt me that way.
Well, and that's the other part too, where I fully believe that a lot of things could have been prevented, and we could have had people fighting for injustices, racism. And this isn't the only thing, right? There's so
Right.
many other different things. If we would just listen first, God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth. Like,
Right.
please just listen first, and then through wisdom, go and speak.
Yeah.
Go and fight for justice, go and do different things.
Yeah.
But when you are just a person who's trying to get like the last word, or you're just trying to get in because of public pressure to say something right now or
Right.
say something immediately, rather than sitting down and saying, wait a minute, what's going on? Honestly, how many pastors really took time to pray before they responded?
Yeah.
Before they talked to members and before they looked and said, hey, what's really going on?
Yeah.
Why was I blind to this? What's the issues within
Yeah.
that? And then go forward. That helps out so much more rather than just, I don't want to say spewing something, but rather than just quickly saying
Yeah.
something. And
Shooting
then-
from the hip.
Right, shooting from the hip
Yeah.
and not having a plan to move forward and to
Right.
help others as well.
Yeah, I think for us in my family, we we talked about it earlier before we got on here. Was everybody uses the statement, "Well, we're colorblind,"
Right.
right? And which I think is stupid because
Right.
you're not colorblind. Even if you're colorblind, you see shades.
Sure.
But I grew up in Montbello. I rode my bike from Maxwell Park to home.
Come on, man.
With
We call it Falcon Park, by the way, baby.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Our family was actually the first family that took it from the old Lightning Bolt to the Falcon.
Really?
Yeah, my mom's the one that did that. So
Shut up.
I grew up in a culturally diverse, multi-ethnic environment my
Right.
whole life. We went from Montbello to Aurora.
Right.
The elementary school I went to was at 6th Avenue. And so it was all of those elements. So I would never say I'm colorblind. I see all color. But I've grown up, and my kids have grown up, where it's just normal
Right.
for us
Right.
to be around people of different color, different ethnics. It's not, or ethnic backgrounds. It's not like we go, well, today, I better hang out with my black friends, or I better make sure at a point that I'm going to go talk to that Latin American.
Right.
It's like, it's a natural thing. And so I think that was why for us, it was like, this is just stupid.
Right.
Why is
Right.
this happening again? Why are we, and how can we, and I heard a guy say it today, linebacker for the Eagles who has
Okay.
awkward questions with a black man.
Right. Right.
He just started this YouTube conversation, which was phenomenal.
Okay.
But he was just talking about how we've got to, if you're white and you have white privilege, which you do,
Right.
he says, then you're the only one that can fix it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
how was the best way to articulate
Right.
what we hope to do as a family and as a community of faith? Because if it's not working from the oppressed,
Right.
then
right.
those that are in the other side need to do something.
Yeah, because
know?
but now you look at from an individual standpoint to a community standpoint
Yeah.
as well, right? So it starts with you as an individual,
Right.
and then isn't it a lot like the gospel, right? Like it starts with you and what Christ is doing within you, but then you just don't sit on that, right? What he says, Great Commission, right?
Right.
Go and tell somebody
Go and tell.
else, right? So, okay, let's start with what somebody else did, and then somebody else, and
Yeah.
then somebody else. But then using the model of the Great Commission as well, then you discipling people. See, this isn't a
Exactly.
conversation that should stop after the protest ends or
Right.
stops, in July once the NHL and NBA get started and we're all back watching games
Yeah.
again, right? This is something that continues and it continues to grow. And that's the biggest deal with this, is that it's not just a one-time thing. This is
No.
not just a one-time shop. This is something that has to continue to happen.
Right.
Maybe it needs to be hammered into the minds of some people, but it needs to continue to happen. It's not just for the benefit of me being a black
Right.
man or my son or my wife, but for all of us sitting in as well.
Yeah. And we were talking about it before we got on here was we've got to start with the end in mind.
Yes.
Right? So
We go into
Revelations-
scripture, man.
Yeah, Revelations chapter 7, verses 9
Yep.
to 10, where it talks about every tribe, every language,
Mm-hmm.
every ethnic background is going to be represented in the host singing before
Dude.
the Lamb of God. And they're all, see, what I love is you can still identify, if you read that scripture, you
Yep.
can still identify a person's color, race, ethnic background, but they're all still clothed in white, of holiness and purity of God.
Would you mind if we read this?
No, do it.
Would you mind? Okay, so this is from the NASB, which is the New American Standard Bible, which there are so many different versions of the Bible. But anyway, it says this: after these things, I looked, and behold, a great multitude which no one could count, from every nation and all tribes, peoples, and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes and palm branches, which, from what I understand, that's of a piece, right?
Yes.
Okay. Palm branches, where was that? Yeah, were in their hands. And they cried out with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. And all the angels were standing around the throne and around the elders and the four living creatures. And they fell on their faces before the throne and worshiped God. And then it continues on from there.
Right.
But, one thing that hits me in the verse initially was, do you see yourself? And a lot of times what happens is that we look at the Bible and we read things, and here's these spiritual disciplines and all this other stuff, and they're cool, but we really don't see yourself in the Bible. So because you don't see yourself in the Bible, there's still that inkling where it's like, well, this is just great rules or great different things,
Right.
or kind of you can attach to emotionalism and go from there. But it's kind of real, but kind of not real, right?
Right.
Once you read this verse, though, the question should be asked, number one, where are you in this? Because if it says every tribe, every nation, every language, it's talking about you if you're one of the elect, if you're with him. And so that's the initial portion that hits me.
Yeah.
And then the second part for me, when I look at, okay, now the reason why I'm fighting for social justice and the reason why I'm fighting for all these other different deals is like, wait a minute, I want you to be there too.
Yeah.
And I see that you're hurting in this situation, so I'm going to help you in this situation. But the end game, and I know we get that to a bit, but the end game is not just I want to fight for you from a justice perspective.
Right.
Hey, man, let me tell you about this holy and perfect God because,
Exactly.
hey, this same God, like, died on the cross for my sins, fought for me. I mean, was convicted of a crime that he didn't commit. Let me tell you about this God.
Yeah.
You know,
Gave his life up for
gave his
us.
life up for us.
Yeah.
So that we could go in, not only dine with him on earth, but in heaven as well. And so there's just so many different portions of that. But I just love it, man. Every tribe, every language, there's going to be different tribes we've never seen before that's going to be in heaven. It's like, man, where did you come from?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There's going to be different languages that we've never heard before.
Right.
Going to be praising God in their own
Saying
tongue.
all the same thing at
Saying
the same
all the
thing.
same
Yep.
tongue, man. It's going to be so amazing because different languages, different tribes, in their tongue, in their own language, worshiping the Lord. Like that's just going to be such a ridiculous moment right there. And that's if that doesn't get you excited to stand up for others, then I don't know what else will.
I think one of the things that for me on the reverse is that when I read that scripture, I don't think, do I see myself in there? The question that I ask is, do I see my neighbor?
Ooh, I like that.
Right?
I like
Because
that.
we're called to love God and love our neighbors as ourselves.
Yeah.
And so if I'm thinking that through, then it's not just about me. It's about, well, do I see my neighbor there?
Yeah.
Because I do live again in a multi-ethnic, multi-cultural background, and it's like, do I see Jason, my neighbor? Do I see Dave, my neighbor? Do I see the grandma who's next to me? Do I see them?
Yeah.
Instead of, do I just see me?
Right.
Because I think, unfortunately, in today's Christian community, it's always starting with us.
Yeah.
And yes, we have to have that internal change. God's got to change that in our heart, because if it doesn't change that, it's not going to change what we do anyways.
Yeah.
Right. So I've gotten to the point where I'm going, okay, do I see my neighbor there?
Right.
And if I don't see my neighbor there, where's my responsibility in that?
100%.
Not that God can't do anything. We know that, but I have to go back where I start with, yes, it's got to be personal with the gospel, but then if you truly are following Jesus, it's less about you, more about him, and more about others.
Right.
And so, do I see my neighbor? And who is my neighbor? Right? Because in this day and age, in our city, if you say, who is my neighbor, it's not just my white neighbor. It's not just my black neighbor.
Right.
Because I heard a pastor say that this week, because I've been just reading and listening a lot. He says, we all go to multi-ethnic, multicultural churches on Sunday, but we don't live it on Monday.
Wow.
And I was like,
wow.
He goes, think about it. He goes, you may go to a church that looks like that, but you don't live that way in your neighborhood. And so one of the things that I've been just kind of chewing on is most people pick a church because they look to find someone that looks like me, right? So if I'm going to go look around. I'm going to find, well, do they look like me? When actually the question should be, does the Holy Spirit want me to be here? And is this a place where I'm going to grow in faith, not grow in favor? Right? Because most people, again, that's part of our culture right now is, well, what's in it for me? How am I going to be blessed?
Right.
Aren't we supposed to be the ones blessing people?
Right.
And so I've been really chewing on. I don't know. I'm still walking through that scripturally, but it's like too many people go, I'm going to go be a part of a community of faith, and I'm looking for someone that looks like me. Right. Instead of going, is this where God wants me to be? Right. And I don't know. That just has come out of me in the last 4 or 5 days.
I love that, man. But this is the other part too, and this is what happens when you have a chance to just chew on scripture. There's so much different things that comes out of it. Like you even saying that hits me differently. I'm just like, dang. Okay, do you see yourself? Yes, but do you see your neighbor? And it's like, ooh, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, now I'm compelled to talk to my friend about the Lord, because I'm like, hey, bro, like, I see this. Like, I'm here, but where are you? Like, okay, this is Like our community should be there. And yeah, that's beautiful, man. What a beautiful picture, Scott, to be able to talk about that. That's right on the money.
Well, and I think we were talking about this before too, that in this time with COVID, with social justice issues, with unemployment, with financial disparity,
Right.
all of those things, this has created a moment in history, at least American history,
Right.
where a lot of things can be changed.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't start with the gospel, then it's just a letter of the law.
Well,
you
it's incomplete.
Yeah.
And so, in the eyes of the believer, it's incomplete. It's let's change, different laws, and let's work on all these other different deals, but it's incomplete unless we're talking about the Lord and hearts are changing.
Exactly.
Like hearts are changing. Not you're being bullied into changing your stance on social media or whatnot. We're talking about literal hearts being changed to
Right.
where you walk a different way because of the gospel, what the Lord is doing. So, yeah, that's one of the different deals. But it doesn't stop us from saying, hey, we want to change laws. It doesn't stop us from those different things or from opening a path that will make it easier for somebody to be able to go and meet the Lord. But that's just not the end goal.
No, again, the end goal is what we read in Revelations chapter 7,
100%.
to see those multitudes of multicolored, multi-ethnic, being sports guys, to me, it's a stadium.
Yeah.
I always, anytime I read that, it's a stadium because you can go into Mile High Stadium. It's Mile High. I don't care what anybody says.
Yes,
it's Mile High.
Mile high.
Sorry, I won't.
You got to look into the camera when you say that. You got to.
I cannot change. I'm not going to accept another name. It's
Right.
just but when you go in there and you stand in the South Stands, because we know as people of Colorado,
Yes.
South Stands is a place that's
Where it's at.
got its folklore
Yes.
in our community.
Yeah.
But you see black, white, Hispanic, Asian, and they're all cheering. And again, they're all wearing the same colors,
I love that.
right? But they're cheering towards one thing, right? I can be in a stadium. I can know you for 30 seconds. The Broncos score or there's a big play or whatever, and I can high five you. Maybe socially distant,
Right,
whatever.
Yeah.
But I can high five you, and there's no representation of color or political background or whatever. And so in my mind, I continually see a stadium,
Right.
right? And when people come into a stadium, heaven, they're all wearing the same color, purity and holiness because of Christ.
Yeah.
And they're cheering towards Him, but they don't represent just what they came in as.
Right.
They represent who's changed them from the inside out. And so that's just kind of been I can't walk away from sports.
Right,
I'm
right.
sure the people of our church are like, bro, if he talks about football one more time.
I think we just got a little bit of your sermon illustration used on Sunday.
Well, somewhat, but
I like it.
But
I
yeah,
like it.
so what do you do now?
Wow.
Right, as a journalist, as a black man, as a follower of Jesus.
Yep.
What do you see your opportunity now?
Okay. Well, the first things first. So there's three things that I follow with the men that I have a chance to meet up with every Tuesday. We call them RMDs, so those required minimum disciplines, because it's easy again to talk about the action items of what do you do in the streets and everything, but it starts with time in the Word, time in prayer, and time with the community. Like those are the three different things. So for me, it's a commitment to 5 chapters a day. Do I get 5 chapters all the time? No, but it's a commitment to, hey, we're going to read that, we're going to spend time in prayer, and then I'm going to go out and meet up with my community.
There you go.
That's the number one thing, right? That's your foundation, your ground floor. Again, is it an everyday thing for me? No, but man, I really work on, hey, got to hit that discipline. From a journalism standpoint, you do your job well. Tell the truth and do your job well. Tell great stories and bring out great stories too. Inform the public on what's going on. Try to find the stories that no one's talking about and be able to bring them up and show them. If I hear another person say, I don't watch the news because there's so much bad news on there, I'm like, goodness gracious. Look, we're here to inform, but there's also great stories going on.
Yeah.
And it's to bring out the beauty in every situation, right?
Right.
And so it's to inform, it's to help. So that's the number one thing that I do as a journalist, to do my job well. Like that's the biggest thing I could do.
Yeah.
As a husband, as a black man, and as a husband, it's to raise my son well. It's to raise my son to understand in the same way. Hey, there are black people, there are white people, my Hispanic population, there's Asians, my Hispanic people, we got Asians, you have so many other different cultures and creeds. Why? Because, man, God created them all, and they're all beautiful, right? If we go to Genesis 1:26, 1:27, hey, we're all created in His image,
Exactly.
right? And we're good not because of or before sin, obviously, we're good not because of what we say about ourselves, but because we were made
In His image.
right? So we go from there. So from those standpoints, it's important just to talk to my son and talk to my wife and to help as much as I can. And this is an ongoing deal. Whether it's, what can we do to help change laws? What can we do to, I'm going to talk to one guy who works with the Denver Nuggets, and, he says sometimes when he gets pulled over, he'll go and say, hey, can I pray for an officer? And that might just help soften the heart for the next time that they meet up with somebody else, right? And so what small things can we do? What small seeds can we do every day in order to make a change? And those are the important things to do. Make sure you make those small seeds every day. If you see an injustice, if you see something, do not be silent. You need to speak out. You need to do something about it.
Right. Excuse me. Well, I don't want to take up any more of your time. You've been here more than long enough.
This has been great, man. Yeah.
There's a couple of things that I just want us to kind of close on is as we walk out of this, we know we're going to walk into an environment that is still very hostile, that is still protesting, which I hope they do. I hope that, like Dr. Martin Luther King, it's more peaceful. And I do agree with the statement where he said that rioting is the voice of the unheard, and I agree with that. But I also agree that rioting doesn't help, or looting, and that doesn't help. But we were talking about that a little bit. The linebacker from the Eagles, he goes, I don't get it, because it's like you're robbing from your own house and burning your own house down while you're doing it. But what would be something that a white friend, white American, would be able to do that would be an encouragement to you?
Walk with us.
Yeah.
Walk with us. I mean, we're the same.
So,
just
but
different
what does that mean?
It's not just walking with us within just marches or different things like that. Walk with us when you see injustice.
Yeah.
When you see different things that's going on. Because what generally happens is that it's like, hey, white guy, please walk with the black man and help out with different situations. But it's never the reverse side. Or usually I don't hear the reverse side of, it's like a black man walking into a situation saying, I want to help out the white community of what injustices or what different things are happening in their community, right? And so being able to help out, like, we're all one.
Right.
Let's serve one another, and let's help out one another. Because again, like you were saying earlier, when you look at Revelation 7, 9, and 10, it's all nations, all languages, all cultures that are all one within this. And so very important to be educated on different issues. Read, learn about the issues. Don't rely off of social media to tell you about different issues, and just learn for yourself. I mean, for me, this has challenged me to learn different things for myself and learn, people are saying vote. Okay, great. Well, learn about the people who are going to be on the ballot. Learn about different issues that are going to be on the ballot. Even if they seem insignificant to you, always look at them and say, okay, how would this not only affect me for sure, but how would this affect my neighbor? Really look at these different things. And those are great ways to be able to help out. That's the start to be able to help out.
Yeah. Okay, so for people that don't know you, how can they find you online, all that kind of stuff? Give your list of places to find Justin.
Justin Adams TV on Twitter and Instagram. Again, Justin Adams TV. You can also find me on Facebook. I gotta get my Facebook profile, my journalism Facebook profile put together, but it's Justin Adams. You can find it from there. But always looking to help. Always I'm just a man sit here for this time, and this time just to give the Lord glory. Whatever God decides to do within me,
Yeah.
You know, I'm willing to walk through it. I'm, no longer for me being silent about it.
Right.
It's time.
Right.
It's time to step up. I believe it's Esther that says, hey, you were created for a time as this,
Yeah.
right? Like this is the time.
Agreed.
And so let's move forward together.
Awesome.
And let's all make this a better place.
Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right.
See you, Scott.
What an incredible opportunity to be able to sit down and listen to someone who is just like the rest of us, seeking to live out faith and understanding in this season of reconciliation and respect. Make sure that you connect with Justin on social media. In Instagram, it's Justin Adams TV. On Twitter, it's the same thing, Justin Adams TV. And on Facebook, if you just reach out and say Justin Adams, you'll be able to see his picture and his information. All of the links are going to be available in the show notes for the podcast and in the description on YouTube. If you've enjoyed this, then I'm going to invite you to please subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you leave a review in iTunes. We're just getting started. We're going to be able to continue to have more and more interviews. If you go back in the first 2 episodes where I talk with Paul Wright and Dave Runyon, you get some great information. But also there are going to be some interviews coming, like with author Caleb Kaltenbach, singer-songwriter Jackson Michelson, and a basketball coach, Sean Palmer. He is the basketball coach at the high school I graduated from, Rangeview High School here in Aurora, Colorado. And he shares an amazing story about what happened at the state championships during COVID. Hey, just have a great day. And remember, you can learn something from anyone if you'll just stop and listen.